intensified, it became clear just what the odds facing the pilots were. 1 in 6 of them would be killed. Russian roulette odds.
In the morning, you'd all have breakfast together. And you know quite well you wouldn't all be having supper that night together. That was very, very sad.
I have a photograph of Sammy Hogg, and that's Pat Learmont. My best friends, really, I suppose. Sad to say, they were both killed in the first few months of the war. And because they are silhouettes, it seems to be an omen of the future in some way. And it was heartrending.
The second day that we were in operation, the whole of B Flight was shot down. They weren't all killed, fortunately. There were only 2 of them killed. But you were constantly aware of what might happen.
It's a strange thing to look back on it and think, well, why didn't we grieve more for the chaps that were missing? And you never knew whether they'd been killed or whether they'd jumped out or whether they'd crash-landed. And by the time the news came through that they had been killed, so much had happened in between that it had no effect on you whatsoever. None.
We had one new wife, the famous case where she came and camped outside the airfield for a month after her husband was shot down, and she never believed he wouldn't come back, but he didn't. His body was washed up and he was buried with military honours and so on.
You couldn't take any of these things to heart. I mean, the sort of ideas, the stories you heard of First World War Royal Flying Corps days when they set an empty place at the table, sort of thing, for the chap who was missing. You didn't play those sort of games. You just said, there it is. Thank God it wasn't me.
To us, we'd lost a pilot. We'd lost an aeroplane. Get on with the job.
For the pilots who were left to get on with the job, those initial 9 hours of training would grow very, very quickly. Pilots were on duty from dawn till dusk. During the long July days, this meant being on duty from 3 in the morning till 10 at night, usually flying 2, 3, or even 4 times a day. Their enemy was exhaustion.
My overriding memory of the Battle of Britain, they'll stay with me longer than anything else, was of abject tiredness. You sat down and you were asleep.
I slept through a bombing raid on the airfield and the anti-aircraft fire against the German bombers, and didn't realise anything until I was wakened up in the morning and looked out of the window and saw this line of bomb craters across the garden outside the mess.
The one thing that would cut through this exhaustion was the adrenaline brought on by their other constant companion, fear.
Good gracious me, of course we're frightened, if that's the right word to use. But you know, when you jump in that airplane and start that Merlin engine and there's a big roar and a bang and off you go, you haven't the time to be frightened.
You can't go up there and fight for your life if you're terrified. You can't do anything if you're terrified. You can't even go gardening. If you're terrified, you can't be terrified. No, apprehensive, yes.
The worst time was waiting, sitting on the ground waiting. As soon as the alarm went, that was it, rush to your aircraft. One of my pilots used to pause on the way, be violently sick on the grass, and then climb into his aircraft, and we were off. That's how it affected him.
We didn't fear death. We accepted that it could happen. What we did fear was being wounded or taken prisoner of war.
Being burnt was the whole thing. I saw so many of people burnt, and In my squadron, quite a few, but...
It's never going to happen to you. That is what you live with. Because I think if you lived with anything else and you were thought, God, I'm frightened, I'm going to do this, you couldn't work it out. You couldn't live with it. It's never going to happen to you.
But of course it did happen. It happened to the 600 fighter pilots who died in the battle, to the hundreds more who were wounded and burned, and to the lovers and wives, and to the families who lost their sons.
What a waste of lives, money and time. You just go out there and drop bombs on a factory, killing people, for what?
I can remember sitting in the bath and floods of tears for a great friend of mine had gone. It still bothers me. Lots of good people, and of course some very good friends. When they go, then it's obviously unnecessary. But there it is, nothing you can do about it.
At Duxford Aerodrome, it's time for Carolyn Grace to decide which of her pupils will go forward to advanced Spitfire training. John Sweet from the RAF or Dave Mallon from Manchester Flying Club.
Very difficult decision. There's nothing between them. They are both outstanding individuals. After the first flight with both of them, I decided to do a points system because it's the only objective way of actually coming up with a clear decision. Dave has a particularly obedient streak in him. He's very concerned about getting things exactly right. And I particularly like his way of questioning. And he will question until he is happy with the result. John has the edge on him with physical flying, but only a very small edge, only about a point. So my decision, and with clear 6 points in the lead out of 200 odd points, it is Dave. I think that Dave will be the one that will always bring the aeroplane back and always just come back, land and go into the squadron bar and say, oh, well done, chaps. He's very much a squadron pilot, so that's what I feel.
Yeah, I've had 3 hours in the Spitfire now, and it was fantastic fun. I'll probably never experience anything like it again, but it was really worthwhile, even just for the 3 hours. It was fantastic.
Very pleased with myself. I'm going to have a few more hours on this lovely aircraft, which I've been really, really enjoying myself on. But it's going to be excellent. I'm really looking forward to it.
Next week, Dave Mallon flies the Spitfire into the front line and learns about command and control. Britain had the right planes and the right pilots, but to win the Battle of Britain needed something else. A system to put the men and machines into the right place at the right time.